that the town wants to move forward in, obviously with discussions with Ledgelight on, do we spray, do we not spray? Will it impact us this spring? Will it impact us, when does that impact us? Will it impact us August 1st? Have a huge impact on our fall programs if that's the case. Could impact us this spring. So it's expensive. It's not cheap, and I did do pretty comprehensive. We looked at all the public parks, all the public schools, that kind of thing. It's about $3,000 per application to do that. The company recommends 15 applications during the year to start with. To start at this early spring, get them in that breeding stage, and treat that right up and through August, September, October into that area. So if you're looking at if the town wanted to move in that direction, you're looking at probably a $45,000 nugget to fully spray on that. That would be a comprehensive plan. So there are other different plans that you can kind of
Playgrounds,
look at,
parks,
schools.
Yeah.
They were out here. I had them look at everything. I do have the proposal here if you wanted to take a look at it, but I think it's a discussion that the community needs to have.
Yeah.
Do we go forward with this potential risk, or do we be proactive, reactive? How do we want to approach that? And
So
that's
sorry for interrupting, but
No,
to
please.
jump in on this, that we are still awaiting direction from the Department of Public Health and the Ledgelight Health District. I'm not sure they know quite yet what the status will be of the mosquito virus in the springs. It's potentially could triple E carrying mosquitoes could hibernate, hibernate, and come back in the early spring. Last year it was August and we saw the impact. In August, September, October, we saw dramatic changes in our behavior and what we need to do to take necessary precautions. We're still waiting that out. We've included $5,000 into the Parks and Rec budget to not hit every park, but hit probably the Little League ball fields, and that would be with the cooperation of the Board of Ed because it's their property.
right.
But there's a significant swamp behind there, and I would think Veterans Park, because it was surrounded by
With the
woods
lake.
there,
Yep.
and with the pond or lake in the woods there as well, and probably not near the shoreline, because I think the trouble wasn't near the shoreline in the past.
Right. From what I understand, Kevin, maybe they're not salt-bearing. Mosquitoes are freshwater bearing mosquitoes. So it's something we have to. I had her, the person I had out, I had her give me while she was out here to look at McCook, and if we did, do McCook and the boardwalk, the grass area at Cheney Park, and I had her look at that type of area. So I wanted to have all the
Sure.
figures for you and kind of bring it forward.
So we did park $5,000 into this budget. If we decide to go forward, if this looks like it's going to be as much of a threat as it was last year, and again, most of the cases that came up, including the one in East Lyme, were inland. They were shoreline towns, but they were 5 miles in, and that's where all the trappings were of the mosquitoes as well. But I'll be working with the Department of Public Health and Ledgelight to come up with a plan as spring rolls through, and I think it's just going to be a matter of testing and trapping, and then figuring out the plan. And I think everybody's just kind of in a wait and see mode. But there's $5,000 baked into the budget. There's also contingency money that we can go get, and town project money that we would be able to go attach if this becomes a public health threat.
Right.
There also might be some state money available as well. We're hoping for a little bit of that for towns like ours.
Right, but I'd like to have a plan in place.
Proactive.
If we're ready to rock and roll to do spraying. I mean, that's going to be a recommendation I think we'd have to take from the state health department and Ledgelight as well.
We're waiting for the direction.
Yeah.
So a couple thoughts. Was that $45,000 for just including the schools and the
Yes.
beach areas?
Yes, correct.
Okay. If we put money, so it was $5,000 in the budget now. It's possible we could put more into it, and if we don't need it, it just rolls over. Something we could talk about later, maybe I'll bring up later, is maybe we have a new line item in there, and then that money, if it's not spent, then it just rolls into the next year's budget, and there's always just a rolling balance.
It doesn't automatically roll. It can in a CNRE account. CNREs are
Well, it would go
roll.
indirectly, right? It would go, if it wasn't spent, it would then go back into our budget, then we reallocate it.
We'd have
indirectly.
we'd have to.
You would have to approve it every year.
approve
Yeah.
it every year.
But it may not be spent.
Oh, create a CNRE for public health risks, whether it's that or something else. But yeah, it's something we can talk
It's
about.
something, then,
Yeah.
if we do get in the pinch, we're not saying, where are we gonna find the money, where are we gonna find the money?
Right.
Great.
And then it's also, if it's rolled in here, then it may be spent on other things. If we just had it in a separate line item or something, maybe
Sure.
we could control a little better.
Sure.
Mark, where did you add it in?
It's in 350,
350 Park Field
Parking
maintenance.
field
page 2.
See how that bumps a little bit?
That was money, the 15% increase.
Yeah, so that 5,000 of that, $6,000 increase, not even, it's 5,500.
Yeah.
5,000 of that 5,500 is spraying.
So that explains that jump.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, there it is.
Partially.
Thanks for doing that research, by the way.
Yeah, I think
good
it's
to have those
important that we
numbers.
have the.
That's
you
great
know,
to have
the
those numbers.
toolkit, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, in front of us, so.
And we wouldn't be in a place where we go, where are we gonna get the money, Mark? Just for the record, we would find that money through contingency and,
Yeah, I
or
was
cut
gonna
back
say
on
that.
something else that,
I was gonna
whatever
say
it
that-
would be.
That would be something that would definitely be something that would be,
Yeah.
contingency would be a,
Public health would be
Yeah.
a number one. We'd
Yeah.
find the money, for sure.
And then,
More presentation?
yeah, well, just my last bullet point here is, we think we're gonna be hit with a additional tax on our municipal parking lot. So the state of Connecticut, as of January 1st, 2020, has issued a 6.3% municipal tax on municipal parking lots.
State tax on
So
municipal.
state tax on
so-
municipal parking lots, correct. So we have not set fees yet. The Park and Rec Commission has usually set fees by now, but we have kind of waited a little bit longer than we normally do. And in my spreadsheet here with McCook fees over the last 10 years, you'll see my recommendation in red, which I provide every year to the Park and Rec Commission for their approval or disapproval. And then in purple, we have our entry fee, and then our entry fee with the tax on top of that. So my thought would be is if we are susceptible to that municipal tax, that we're not charging $42.31, that would be a logistical nightmare for my whole staff, then that would go to like 45 if you look at the first one. And a $10 fee would go to 15, and it would be a $10.64 thing, and then whatever the tax on, the 64-cent tax on that $10. So, again, it's going to require an increase in the fees for McCook again. So we're kind of getting double whacked down there
Yeah,
because we're
sounds
getting
like
whacked with the increase in the minimum wage over the next 40 months, and then a 6.3% sales tax on municipal parking lots. So, just to bring it to your attention, we are going to post this pretty aggressively in our office so that people know
Yeah.
what they're paying for. But I'd imagine we're going to catch a little bit of flack especially at the front office level with this. But
So you're not always rounding up? So on the
no,
second
there's some we're
round,
rounding down,
Yeah,
right?
I
Correct.
see.
So the senior one, I think the senior one we rounded down. Anything that was
Resident second car.
we
I think you
rounded down.
down,
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
which is nice.
Yeah, we rounded up with the non-resident, with the
Of course.
non-resident fees. Pretty
Resident
much.
employee.
In the,
Interesting. And your commission, for the record, the Parks and Rec Commission sets the rates in town. The Board of Selectmen doesn't. They do a great job, and I think they found a good balance of resident versus non-resident. Of course, there was a court case that binds us to allow non-resident
Right.
use of our parks. That was kind of the motivation in separating parks from tax money. The beach passes from taxes. It's more of a user fee now, and we've talked about that in the past, and we can see that our parks, our beach passes pay for the use of the parks, the
yes.
lifeguards and the residents. Not your salary, because
Right.
we'd have to have a Parks and Rec director anyway.
right, it's that
but-
on-site staff and
It's-
on-site services.
Yeah, of course, and all the expenses that go with it. So we
Yeah.
appreciate that. So walking through your budget, which is, it's a one-pager, which
Right.
is really simple these days. We mentioned the $5,000 into the line 350. Is there anything else we should point out?
The only time, I have in my maintenance payroll account, it's up a little bit. I have a employee that has gotten a couple of his certifications. He's a good employee. I'd like to bump him from a maintainer 2 to a maintainer 3. And so that would be reflective in that 4.79% increase. And that's why it's a little more than the 2.25% where everybody else is.
I think
So-
by contract, we're obligated to bump him up because of the certifications. He's
Right.
obtained a higher level of education in his field. So he is deserving of a class bump, and by contract, that's the case. So you'll see that underlined. Is that 311?
That's 311, correct. Yep, the second 311, yep.
You'll see that. And then really everything else holds the line until you get down to the very bottom. Utilities, we've shaved a little bit off here. I don't know if you knew we did that.
Yeah, well, we had talked about it, so I expected that to come. But that's just kind of the utilities is always a...
It's
you know,
tricky.
yeah, absolutely.
Last year, you didn't put the lights on as much because we shut the parks down.
Exactly.
So that's not really fair for me to look at last year's
Yeah.
bill, but I went back to a couple of years, and we've been holding steady. And again, if you get in a pinch, there's you have some of your park
Right,
money and,
right.
and whatever, we'll work it out.
Yep.
And certainly we want to watch that, especially if we're not closing the parks this year.
Right.
We get more use out of our parks, and the lights stay on longer.
Yep, absolutely.
So the reduction of 3,500 to 2,000, you think that will cover it? You said
Yeah.
that went back a few years. That wasn't
Yeah,
because
that's back a few years. Yeah,
it wasn't as good. Okay.
We're getting less light usage too, Mark, with like softball and some of those other programs. So
It's less
just less
guys playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the league is
Yeah.
much smaller.
Yeah, I know.
One thing I think that is good, and Dave did this a very good job at his board meeting, is pointing out that even though we have a good base in the fund for the, what was it?
Beach Enterprise.
Yeah, the enterprise fund, thank you. We made over $10,000 on
July 4th.
On July 4th. So if you have a couple of rainy weekends and July 4th happens to be one of them, that really would have a major impact on your
Absolutely.
your enterprise fund for that year. Now, granted, if it's a rainy day, you send home some of your staff, but you're not sending home $10,000 worth of revenue there. So Dave has pointed out that he's trying to build that enterprise fund up, so in the event that you do have a bad summer, there's that cushion there to take care of it too. And the board was very understanding and supportive of that too, to not look at, well, you've already got 64,000 for this year, so you're good. Well, a couple rainy weekends at the wrong time, and that money's gone. So I thought you did a very good
There's
job.
my hope when we created this and crafted this that eventually we could build that fund up, and then some of the capital items that go along to support the beaches could be supported through the Beach Enterprise Fund. We're not even close to that now, but the chairs and the buoys and the raft.
We're going to need a raft very sooner.
Yeah.
Sooner than later.
No kidding.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, we're not building that fund up. We're it's really an operating fund. But should there be money left over, we'd love to see that continue to build for those purposes.
Yeah. And-
We're far away from that. right
And
now.
Dave, a raft is, I think you said, about $10,000.
Yep.
What do you say, Mark?
Yeah. What do you think? What would you like to get that at, just for operating fund?
Yeah, I think if you're at 50 would be appropriate. Then you can start taking maybe 10 a year and put towards a capital improvement, something along those lines. I think maybe that's a
So
little
you-
conservative, but
You're at 60 now, but that also covers June, right?
That's
good.
the 50. Also remember that's state of Connecticut money, and we don't know what type of impact that'll have. So the state of Connecticut gave us $50,800
Yeah.
as a potential impact to lost parking at Cheney Park over the next 2 years because of the bridge work. So there's going to be a time where we have potentially 10 to 12 spots on a particular
More.
weekend or more that
More.
are unavailable.
More,
So-
they're going to take that whole back line, and I bet they say they'll only do it here and then. We're going to lose it for a couple
That money
seasons.
is what will also cover the
We also lost a fishing dock, as you
fishing dock,
remember.
too. yeah.
And
So
if you
that-
remember, Mrs. Hardy was talking about maybe taking some of that money back to support some other.
Right. So I don't even count
Ventures.
that, Mark, to be honest with you. I don't even count that.
Okay.
50 is
That's not money in the bank right now.
It's parked there,
Yeah.
but it's not, he doesn't own it.
Okay.
We'd like to see if we can keep it in there. Part of our thought was, if we're losing parking, we've always talked about a trolley down here, or some kind of a beach shuttle, and maybe on those busy weekends, maybe it's only 4 weekends a year where you're gonna be crushed, but having a bus service or trolley service come in, because, it's a great big beach, but we don't have parking to support it, even when we don't lose parking spaces to the DOT. Wouldn't it be great to have people park here, or veterans, or at Niantic Center, and bus people in over to Cheney Beach, which is just a huge beach.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost as big as
With that, the
Rocky Neck.
restaurant's been a huge,
Yeah.
That helps out.
the
Yeah.
restaurant down there
Yeah.
has been
That's been great.
a huge addition to our inventory. It's been great. So.
Questions?
Was there any consideration, I know you maybe haven't gone to your commission yet, but on the military, is there any consideration for veterans discounts, not just active military?
We have talked about that. We haven't set these fees yet, so I can bring that back if that's something that the board's
I'm just asking,
Yeah,
I'm not saying
yeah.
you should or shouldn't, but.
Yep, it has been discussed. That is one thing that we were kind of in a gray area with, that we wanted to nail down, that we did take care of our active military, so, but, I think they'd be receptive to the veterans too, so.
Is this active military resident discount new this year?
Yes. Well, it was kind of an unwritten rule. If they were active military, we gave it for free, but we wanted to make sure that we had that in writing somewhere, and then
Yeah.
also that we gave active military that were non-residents a break as well. So that was.
Geez, it passed
discussion.
$40 instead of
Yep,
120.
right.
If our neighbors over in Groton want to come on over,
Yep.
or New London, we certainly welcome them. And this proves it. That's wonderful.
I have one general comment that I don't expect Dave to respond to, and something for us to consider. But with a 5.676% increase as presented, I'd like to consider the reduction of all non-mandatory, non-certification training for 1 year across all federal departments, conventions, professional development. It's a tough year. I don't know what it adds up to. I haven't got through the whole book yet. I can't tell if some of it's required. Dave only has $1,800. It's no
Right.
big deal.
Yeah.
But when we have to tighten our belt, certification training, I'm fully supportive. We need that. But for other professional development training, can the town or can the departments afford to take a year off? Don't have to answer that tonight, but it's just something I'd like to have us consider as a board. I don't know if it'll.
Convention, certification, travel expenses.
Not certification. Certification you gotta keep.
Well,
Mandatory.
yeah, if it's
Something-
expiring and
Right.
it's part of your job, but there's also advances of certification that department heads and team members have to take.
You know, if it
And
adds up to
that
10
could
or
be-
20, or, I don't know, it's probably not 50,000, it may not be 20 either, but whatever it is.
But it's more.
It could be more,
I bet it's more in each department,
so just something for us to
Okay.
evaluate.
It's a good point. Maybe Anna and I will crack the book and see if we can look into that
You
before
mean
next
Anna
meeting.
will?
It would all, I guess,
Anna will, no, we both will do that.
it'd be interesting to see what we do spend too
Yeah.
on last couple of years, if you have that.
Wonderful. Any other comments?
The electricity,
Mm-hmm.
utilities, so, it went down by 12%, how do you,
Well,
is that the LED lighting, or?
Well, no, actually, so the actual year end at 2019 was 13,987.
Okay.
And so the 20 was kind of, if, to be honest with you, I wish I had a better answer for you
Yeah.
than, I don't know why it got in there, to be honest with you, at 20. But I think when we met with Mark, or when I met with Mark and Anna, we felt that the 17.5 was a little bit better. One of the things that comes out of that utilities is the new park down here. Even though we have LED lighting, we are watering it. So that would be a little bit of a water bill, that we do water that during the summertime. So that would be an
So that's
increase in that.
utilities and electricity, not?
Yep. Yeah, so utilities and electricity.
Okay.
Correct.
And the
Okay.
water bill for the new
The
bathrooms.
new bathrooms,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That
Yeah.
you didn't have a bill before.
Oh, that's a good point.
No.
And then the athletic lighting, that's down?
That's down because of, actually, girls softball their numbers have decreased and they have less usage of the lights, yeah.
We're trying.
I know. It's a hard, I know.
Well, Dave, even at Bradbrook, the men's softball league
has
is
gone down a little bit
Okay.
too, and we're down
Quite
to
a bit.
6 or 7 teams, so
Yeah.
we've seen our electricity costs come down.
Dave, are you seeing an increase in like usage of the fields and fees from it from AAU?
Yes, absolutely. So
Okay. Is that
we're getting more and more requests to use the field, especially baseball, softball, for tournaments. Correct. Yes.
okay?
Yep.
Is there a revenue line that goes in with that?
It goes into our special event line.
Special event.
Yeah.
So if your electricity was running a little high, but you've rented out the fields to AAUs and to
Yes.
work shore tournaments, are you flicking on the lights? I know
They
they don't.
very
but
rarely.
I know, but
Yeah.
you could always take it from special revenue
could.
because you made
Correct.
the money in
Yes.
special revenue.
Correct. Yep.
And that would make more sense.
Right.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I mean, we might have 1 or 2 night games
Yeah.
a year with the AAU programs, but we are seeing more practices,
Sure.
teams practicing, that kind of thing. So
And our charges are competitive with
Yes.
other towns?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your
In
forecast-
fact, a lot of towns are coming to us looking for what we're charging.
Ah,
'Cause, yeah, so we do, to be honest, we do 13 War to Shore tournaments a year.
right.
So we're from April through October.
Yep. Which is great.
Do 13 War at the Shore tournaments?
And it's
Oh,
busy.
It's busy.
It goes, they, in East Lyme, they go all the way to Stonington. That's how many fields are being used. East Lyme is like the central point.
Now, they need to schedule around our youth sporting events. So our youth,
Right.
Babe Ruth, Little League, softball, whatever field they use, they have priority use of it, and then I schedule those
Sure.
tournament games around that.
And it's a real economic boom. I mean, you should see how many people are here
Yeah.
going to the
They come-
restaurant.
they
It's
stay
No,
for dinner?
They come from everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I was talking to one of the owners at Village Pizza, and they said it was,
Oh, yeah.
it just, they said they almost run out of food on occasion. It
Yeah.
was such a great weekend for them.
Hundreds, I mean,
Yeah.
hundreds. and
Anything
hundreds.
else for Dave?
So that's your forecast for revenue from rental of the fields is 37,802. Utility costs, it's on page 3 of 3. Vendors, lighting. There's state grant, is that all?
So the field rentals is in the special revenue fund.
The $10,000?
It's not in this, it's in the special revenue fund. So if you look at do they have the special revenue funds? Yeah. So it's one of the Excel spreadsheets.
Next page, right after 3 of 3 is for the adult programming, playground programs.
So it's under special events, and in there, under expenses is 85,000, but that's not what we expend out on that. Our income for the War at the Shore tournaments is probably somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000 a year that we charge out. And it's carried in the special revenue fund under special events.
Okay.
I can break that out, Paul, if you'd
No,
like,
no,
but
I
that's
just,
where
I
it's.
just saw the 37 on
yeah,
the other sheet.
yeah. That's just other revenue.
Okay.
That's like our state grants and our, and some of our vendor fees and stuff, I think, are in that.
Great.
Thank you.
Super. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Yep.
Great budget. Keep rolling along, guys. Come on up, Joe. Mr. Porter, you want to come up too? Just be his be his wingman over here? No? Okay. All right then. We're at budget 317, Public Works, Highway and Sanitation budget. Which is always an aggressive budget. We do so much inside this budget. A lot of things happen inside this budget. Joe, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Want to walk us through any monumental ups and downs?
Give me 1 second.
You hold pretty steady in most of your budget, and and we've come to expect that out of you. I don't know if that's good or bad, Joe, that we see Joe coming into the room, we go, well, this will be a fairly flat budget. And you've done it again. It's a 1.45 for a hefty $3.7 million budget. Why don't you walk us through it?
And the reason I'm trying to get everything in line is there is three budgets that, I know we're talking about 317 right now, but I'm going to be talking about 317, 105, and 113 tonight, the engineering and the building maintenance as well. As Mark's saying, I mean, we do take a lot of pride in coming in every year and trying to keep this budget as absolutely flat as possible, and I think we're doing it again this year. I mean, the highway budget's up 1.46%. And we'll get into the other ones, but the cumulative impact on the budget of these three budgets is pretty reasonable, I believe. So with the different line items, I'll just go through, as Mark said, the different I guess differences of this year. I'm on the first page here with the numbers. The tree warden is the first one. We discussed that the other day at the appointment, so that was the explanation of that. And as we go through there, if there's any questions, please let me know. The 311 line item, the regular payroll, it shows up as a 1.28% increase. We are increasing there is a general wage increase of all the unit of our guys, but we've had some people that have retired and brought in newer people at a lesser cost. That's why that percentage is 1.28. There's no other lines that jump out at me in the personal services line. The next set of lines is the services contracted operations. The road reconstruction and repair line, 224. That's our meat and potatoes line. This is a good example. This year, Town Aid Road, we still haven't even got from the state, and it's now 8 months into the year, and we still haven't, because we work off of the road reconstruction for a lot of the projects that aren't listed as a big road. This is all the drainage jobs, or all anything that comes up in the year. That's materials. That's basically all the operations, all the catch basins. So a few things out of that. It's showing the 217.5. Since I've been here, it was that budget line was 217,500 every year, except last year, and I cut that last year to try to bring the budget in at the bottom line less. But that definitely hurts if you do try to cut that. One thing you see is the 2019 actual expense. The reason being is that anything that goes over, like in that year, 2019, if salt goes over, if we have more overtime for storms, for snow, we still continue to plow the roads. I just don't come back and ask for more money. That's always the line I go to basically chop out of things. So, trees. I'm asking for more this year in trees. I've been spending more on trees in other years. It's just I take it out of road reconstruction, $10,000 or $15,000, so it doesn't really show up. So in this year here, the 164, that money had to be reallocated to some other lines to try to balance other things. So that road reconstruction, the 217, is well needed, and that's the things that make, the residents, the constituents happy with all the projects. Next,
Joe, when you say you take it out of other things and it doesn't show up, if you took 10,000 from the roads and spent it on trees, wouldn't that show up in the tree, the actuals?
if I pay,
Budget that way.
yes, that's correct. If you move around money in there, it will show up there. Yes.
Okay, all right. So
Yes.
it will show up.
Yes, it will show up. It's still in the budget. Yeah.